Ahoy, you salty sailors. Time to raise anchor and set sail for your best scrawny life. Arr.
Calm down, you little hammer handle. In the meantime, unbeknownst to me, the Steamboat Rock Dam has been converted to a rapids. Now, normally, I'd be all in favor of dam removal, but in this case, I'm a little concerned that perhaps this deprives some of the fish of a deep water refuge in the winter time. You can see the top of that concrete was once where the water level was in the Steamboat Rock impoundment. Now it's much lower. Will the fish have a deep enough pool to spend the winter in? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the impact of this is in the future. Meanwhile, in the swamplands, we still have not seen, due to fluctuations in temperature and water level, the big fish, the really big fish, moving shallow to spawn, but some suddenly hot weather arrived, and that has drawn some larger fish near the surface. I was just way too trigger happy there, way too fast to actually hook that fish. So I needed to calm down and use the steady pressure approach, but just got a little excited apparently. I mean, I am just a little high strung, and what does he say? I'm afraid the strain was more than he could bear. but eventually I calmed down and began hooking fish with the steady pressure approach, and it's a good time for it because the hot weather has arrived, but it has not yet sent the water into a fully toxic cyanobacteria bloom. Now that's a little bit low on the grab. We are risking the gar making a furtive lunge and drawing blood perhaps, but it's a small one. We'll just pop that hook out quickly and get her back in the water. You know about the furtive lunge, of course. That's why we've got the glove and, of course, always eye protection. And while people ask, why do you do this? This is why. Head over tail, fully aerialized, flippy spins. Yes, sir, that is why we're here. But also, when the heat sends fish like largemouth bass and so forth down into the thermocline during the day, these fish rise to the surface instead and are much more easily caught, and it's a very visual style of fishing. So that's also another reason why we do it. But it's not for everyone. I mean, you're watching a scrawny old man catch these devil-like fish from a greenish pool of semi-toxic water. A scene both weird and wretched, and he's pulling the kayak in circles now. And he gave that great leap at the beginning, and a little better sized fish, so we'll go ahead and certify this one. But as said, it's not for everyone. There is, of course, real danger here from several different directions, and once again, we are not using frayed nylon rope or anything of that nature to entangle the teeth of the gar. We are using a treble hook with the barbs crushed down, and that steady pressure on the hook set. And of course, the grab is fab. There are just dangerous and somewhat exciting elements about these fish that you just don't get with any other type of fish. So let's bring this one in, and this time a little better grab. I mean, there's always the risk of a furtive lunge, but this is a better position to control the head, and we'll release this one gently. Ah, how peaceful. See, it's normal. It's not crazy. Once again, playing that game of which end is the head and which end is the tail. There it is. A little too fast on the hook set, but this time we fortunately drew a second strike and got him. A little darker phenotypic variation, it would appear. not what we would call melanistic, but he might have that diamond pattern. A little darker fish anyway. Wild native fish populations in the Mississippi drainage, not just the gars, but you see that in the buffaloes, the bigmouth buffalo and smallmouth buffalo as well, tend to have a greater degree of phenotypic variation, whereas stocked fish populations tend to sort of all look the same. Going for the grab here, and he makes a furtive lunge straight for the jugular vein. The teeth snapping, the jaws clacking. The furtive lunge card has been played with this one, which reminds me of another reason why I target these fish: attitude, the incalculable A factor. I mean, you just don't get that level of attitude with a lot of other fish. He's got another leap left in him. Let's slow it down frame by frame. Nice. Fully aerialized. You gotta love that. I think this fish, although he's not a giant, he's got the giant attitude. So I think he's earned certification as a legitimate swamp threat. And in the end, he pops free before I can even make the grab. So well played by that fish. And what you saw there is another example of why we wear the glove and why we crush down the barbs on the fly. Because it is pretty easy to take a hook in the hand or in some other body part. Always have that eye protection as well. This is fishing with safety equipment involved. Smaller fish here, we'll try to wrap this one up and get back to chasing those big boys. But small or not, you always do have to be aware of the possibility of a furtive lunge. Alright, so this one, he makes a strike, misses. Will he strike again? He's reluctantly turning toward the fly. He's following. He strikes again, and this time we land the hook set with that steady strip strike. All that remains now is just to enjoy the seizure-inducing camera work. Oh yeah, you have to go to school to learn how to do that. This could be the largest fish of the day, although I mean ultimately they can get 2 or 3 times this size, but those fish are quite rare. This does appear to be the biggest of the day. He's broad-shouldered. I mean, for a creature that has absolutely nothing in its anatomy resembling a shoulder at all, he is remarkably broad-shouldered nonetheless. So I think that's the biggest of the day. He hasn't been skipping meals, I'll tell you that. This little backwater swamp off the Raccoon River, slapped full of gizzard shad, so there is food available. Yeah, he's a good fish. We'll go ahead and certify. He's a decent size. Go ahead and pop that hook out, and there we are. Here's a little smaller fish. Now this one, she strikes once, strikes a second time, but shakes the hook out shortly afterward. But reflexes got the better of him, and he strikes a third time, and that time it stuck. That is the nature of the beast. Fortunately, that attitude is just so aggressive they continue to strike, even when they should know better. That's the weird thing about a gar fight. One moment, they'll be completely calm. They don't continuously pull like deep-bodied fish. They'll fight violently for a moment, and then they'll just relax at the surface for a while, and then go back to thrashing again. It's sort of I don't know. It's strange. Would you call that passive aggressive behavior? That's probably what it is. Passive aggressive gar fighting behavior. See, I gently grabbed that one, and he remain calm. Here's some smaller fish just catching some air. Gotta love that out there. This little guy, pretty good hang time there. Now, what would have been the star of the show, partially melanistic gar, but of course, my camera battery died as I was fighting the fish. But he's not fully melanistic, but he has those tendencies. We'll call this the oil slick. We'll call this the oil slick color variation, a partially melanistic gar. But now we must set aside our redneck entertainments and pursue instead the scholarly path, chiefly the art and science of taxonomy. These are the first boletes to appear. It's early June, and there's a lot of Cortinarius distans that's emerged as well. Well, there's quite a mystery surrounding the identity of these early boletes. What genetic testing has been done seems to indicate that the closest related species are within the genus Neoboletus, with Neoboletus bruneo-squamulosus being perhaps the closest relative. But photos of that species are quite different. The pore layer here is all yellow, and whereas other observations of that species are reddish and less irregular and smaller as well. And the characteristic from which the species derives its name, the brown scales on the stipe of the mushroom, although they are present here, and you can see the stem texture a little better in this photo, they are not nearly as prevalent as in photographs of some of the other observations. So I'm not certain that it is actually the same species. And I had quite a bit of difficulty. I'm not all that familiar with preparing a sample for genetic analysis, but even so, the ones that I picked turned out to be so full of gnat larvae and fleas and such that I'm not sure I could have gotten a clean sample out of it anyway. But and I was not able to get a spore print from this, although I just have to stick with some basic observations. I did test it with ammonia, and that flushes the blue stain from the context of the mushroom and turns it sort of an orange color. But jumping back to the subject of DNA testing, something I need to learn more about is how to interpret the results, because it's going to come back and say, well, it's 99% similar to species XA, and it's 98% similar to species XB, and 97% similar to species XC. But where do you draw the line? And are these all really the same species in sort of a complex? And there's some, rather than a linear model, maybe it's more of a bell curve model. Or, as is the case here, if the results come back and say, well, it's a 100% match to this other thing that we have on file, but the two observations look different, well, now you're talking about the same genome expressed in two different ways. So do you have genetically the same species but functionally two different species? And why is it being expressed differently? Is it perhaps things like differences in temperature and humidity and polymorphism? And what effect does nutrient availability have on gene expression? And to what degree do such different expressions qualify as speciation? Or, vice versa, to what degree can these species interbreed? Are they perhaps the same species that's undergone geographic isolation or some sort of founder effect, as perhaps is the case with many European species versus North American species? So genetic analysis can just lead to a whole new set of questions, and fungal taxonomy remains, as we laymen like to say, a bit squirrely.